Support WrestleTalk!
Donate on Patreon.
Hello and welcome to the WrestleTalk News. I am El Fagador Laurie Blake. Press the thumbs up, give us a subscribe and enable notifications with the bell icon and leave a little comment down below to answer the question of the day, which is, do you think Randy Orton should go to AEW? We'll talk about that a little bit later, but also coming up on this episode of Rusev Day. Rusev is unhappy with his role in WWE. Sasha Banks wants to leave. The Usos haven't re-signed. And Randy Orton open to working with AEW. The world is falling apart, people. So yeah, it sounds like WWE could be about to lose, I don't know, all of their talent, which I guess is just payback for all of their talent losing their names. Because you may have noticed that there's another group that's fallen foul of the curse of El Andrade, and that's been Heavy Machinery. Otis and Tucker have both lost their surnames, which is dumb, because Dozovich was the bit that made it sound like Heavy Machinery. Come on, guys, think about it. The change wasn't lost on the wider WWE universe either, as Big E, formerly Big E Langston, head of the name-lost Survivors group, was quick to try and cheer Tuck and Oat up. Welcome to the club, boys. Silver lining, autograph sessions are much quicker. Much quicker if you're also Heavy Machinery. So sweet. Thinks Otis can write. Quite funny, but it does raise the question, where does the name culling end? Samoa Joe just becomes Joe. The Usos both lose their first names and are now just both called Uso and we can't tell them apart. No way, Jose. Just no. And look, I'm not saying it's the lack of surnames causing it, but people like to know full names. Why do you think I always introduce myself as El Fagador Laurie Blake? Because that's my name and it says it on my birth certificate. So it's not that I'm saying that it's the lack of surnames causing it, but it's definitely the lack of surnames causing the constant ratings slide of WWE. Monday's episode of Raw had a ratings drop of 7% from last week's post-Rumble edition, averaging just 2.51 million viewers. Now, it was a low night for cable viewership across the board though, so Raw did manage to finish third in terms of overall viewers. But with no major sports or network competition, you got to imagine that the show would have done a little better, because the viewership this time last year was closer to 3 million on average. Also interestingly, there was also no drop-off in the 3-hour stretch, so front-loading the show with Becky and Ronda didn't exactly give Raw a viewership spike like they probably imagined it would. SmackDown did not fare any better. In fact, it fared far worse. This week's show drew the lowest total audience since the brand split all the way back in July 2016. Smacky D averaged just 1.841 million viewers. Admittedly, the show was up against Donald Trump's new series, Would I Lie to You, otherwise known as the State of the Union Address, which pulled in 30 million viewers across different platforms. And now that speech was also one of the longest and no doubt the biggest and the bestest and the greatest of such speeches in history, swallowing up the first 90 minutes of SmackDown, leaving half an hour and many chicken adverts. Which meant that for perhaps the only time in its history, SmackDown failed to crack the top 20 cable views for that day. And now it's a unique set of circumstances, so it probably doesn't mean that SmackDown is dying a death just yet, but the show was down 26.5% year over year, which is only slightly more than the recent trend, so viewers are dropping off. It's time for that shake-up, meetings. Now, with SmackDown on the ropes, a few stars are coming out of the woodwork to give it a good old sucker punch. One such slugger with a legitimate grievance is Rusev, who, despite being the most over thing since Becky Lynch, who was never even pushed, he was barely even touched, not even by his wife, who was apparently having a dalliance with Aiden English. Rusev and Lana were guests on the Chasing Glory with Lillian Garcia podcast, where they aired some of their dirty laundry. When asked about the longevity of his US title run, a couple of weeks, the Bulgarian brute said, "It meant a lot because it was the first championship I ever won. One thing, it kind of hurts me because nobody cares about it. It feels like I'm the only one that cares about the title. I wanted to make it bigger. I wanted to make it what it was when we wrestled John Cena for it. But it seems like anytime anybody else has it, nothing happens. Now that I've lost it again, the title is probably going to get lost again and I'm probably going to get lost too. He also says he had no idea why WWE Creative broke up the Rusev Day when they had top-selling merch, people singing, chants throughout every show, and now, hype manless, if that's even a word, he's worried he's going to get lost in the shuffle. I want to be WWE champion. I want to be on top. I don't want to be forgotten, and that is what irks me. I do all these things and nothing changes, and that's where the frustration comes. We go to pitch, to talk, it never comes to anything. Every day is Rusev Day, unless of course Alexander Rusev, who also lost his name too. The humanity! Now, WWE aren't the only ones in hot water with their stars. In fact, Lucha Underground is basically skinny dipping in a volcano at the moment with some of its roster. Pro Wrestling Sheet broke the news that the show seems to be in limbo. The 4th season finished in November, but there's no word on if or when a 5th season might happen. This means that the stars who are signed to notoriously strict contracts with the company aren't getting any work from Lucha Underground, but also they have to seek permission from the producers to work elsewhere, which apparently hasn't been very forthcoming. And I guess really this couldn't be happening at a worse time because there are so many deals flying around at the moment. What you do is reach out and grab them. And these restrictive contracts, it's like wearing a straitjacket inside the Crystal Dome. So as you imagine, in America, the situation has resulted in a bunch of lawsuits heading the way of the El Rey Network and Baba G Productions. One major one was filed by King Cuerno and says that the contract is restricting wrestlers from engaging in their lawful profession. And it says that most Lucha Underground stars make less than $4,000 a year and is seeking punitive and actual damages to be paid by El Rey and Baba G. Now, according to the suit, Cuerno has lost out on thousands of dollars and a contract with another company. Lucha Central spoke to Cuerno's lawyer Andre Verdun, who said they're also filing a class action to invalidate certain portions of their contracts that they believe are illegal. Lucha Central also reported that Ivelisse, Joey Ryan, and Thunder Rosa are just some of the names joining Cuerno in that suit. Bad times at the El Rey Network. With this sort of stuff going down, it is no wonder that everyone is obsessed with release dates and who's going where. To that end, Fightful have created a master list of every contract expiry date that they could find. Now, obviously, the most interesting ones on the list are the ones that are coming up in the next few months. You've got AJ Styles, Dean Ambrose and the Usos all coming up in April. You've got Mauro Ranallo in June this year, Jim Ross in March, and that's a hell of a commentary team right there. Paige is also done in April, while Shinsuke Nakamura is a bit more of a mystery, but he is said to be done in 2019 too. And with Mauro Ranallo's contract reportedly up in June this year, you would think that people would be clamouring to have him call their matches just in case he does decide to leave the company. Well, that's sort of what's going on. Because underneath one of Mauro's posts on Instagram, none other than the boss Sasha Banks had this to say. "I need you to call one of my matches before I leave." Wait, what? Before she leaves? Mamma mia. This is obviously not the first time that Sasha has teased leaving, and I'm sure it won't be the last. But whether these bank statements are counterfeit or not, we'll have to wait and see. Another set of names from Fightful's list who have contracts coming up soon are the Usos, who are reportedly up for renewal in April, but according to Fightful's backstage sources at WWE, haven't re-signed a contract. Now, apparently the fear internally at WWE is that the pair are just riding out the end of their contracts, though Fightful did clarify that no one has said the Usos have any intention of leaving, just that they haven't inked a new deal, and that WWE are really hoping they do. But then again, if you were trying to escape the penitentiary, the idea is not to tell anyone. The only way to really know is to check the locker room for posters of Raquel Welch. Now, PW Insider also reported this same deal about the Usos. Contracts are up soon, they haven't re-signed yet, but they also dug up some dirt on some other names people have been asking about, namely Dolph Ziggler, who they found out from sources will be continuing his relationship with the company. And a fairly loveless marriage that is too. On the AJ Styles front, we obviously know that he's denied that he's come to terms on a new deal on Twitter, but PW Insider did say that the two have been in talks for some time, and WWE has made a strong play to keep Styles in the fold, inside the house that he built. Speaking of Styles, he bloody loves denying things on Twitter these days. On Tuesday, the sneak attack Dave Meltzer reported that AJ suffered a hernia that had kept him off of some live events over the weekend. But then AJ obviously appeared on SmackDown Live, getting all physical with his Elimination Chamber opponents. So, yeah, about that? I don't have a hernia. He then followed up with, reporting in this world is not being based on facts, but who can get the story out first? Which is a funny statement coming from a man who once said, I'm not a flat earther, but they do raise some interesting points, like how did they fall off the end of the earth in Pirates of the Caribbean if it's so round? Now, somebody who wouldn't want the earth to be flat because then there's less places to hide and hit an RKO from out of nowhere is Randy Orton, whose name was recently linked to a report by WrestleVotes that a current big-time WWE star had an outstanding offer from All Elite Wrestling. Now, Sean Ross Sapp from Fightful was the one to link the name up to the reports, and this is where things get interesting. I asked some people in AEW about this, and I was told, we are not tampering, we are not doing that. Our approach is fresh and independent is the goal for the majority of our recruitment. What you're likely seeing is a particular agent trying to leverage more money out of WWE by possibly planting like this. Randy Orton in backstage shenanigans, you liar! That smells like dick. Ross then went on to say that there's no offer. Randy may not have even spoken to them, but multiple sources said he was saying he'd be keen, and then he was just like, yeah, I talked to him. Why not? Randy Orton doesn't give a fuck. Should Randy Orton go to AEW? Make sure to answer our question of the day in the comments below. And why not click the videos on screen now if you want to see some more awesome WrestleTalk goodness, and give us a subscribe to stay up to date on all of the latest wrestling news. I've been El Fakador, and that was Lucha